Everybody, my name is Jeff. This is Ernest, this is Tiffany, and this is Zara. I'm here to kind of educate everybody a little bit about my knowledge that I found out about the legalization of marijuana. This presentation, we're going to go through a series of questions and answers. I'm going to ask them some questions. They're going to answer it for me. And then I'm going to go into kind of a background on those answers. And as I say, according to my knowledge of what I've received from writing a research paper. And with that being said, let's get started. The legalization of marijuana, we got to think about, nobody really goes into depth of marijuana and how the legalization came about, because it was first illegal, and there's a history behind that. At first, it was used for medical purposes, and then it was used by other people. Then it turned out to be something that people didn't want because they didn't fully understand anything. And basically right now what I stand upon and my standpoint of view of the whole thing is that due to the certain circumstances of how the USA is today and how these propositions, these declarations, these statements by these states legalize marijuana and the many loopholes that are in those that is making this legal and possibly hurting the fabric of the nation. But with that being said, let's go on. First question is, what is the scientific name for marijuana? Cannabis sativa. B, Cannabis solivia. C, Sativa cannabis. D, Cannabis gravita, or E, Marijuana escava.
I would go with A.
I would say A.
And the correct answer is A.
Oh man, I was guessing.
The scientific name for cannabis is Cannabis sativa. It's a plant that contains a chemical called delta-9 tetracannabinoid, or what people would know as THC for layman's terms. It's the substance that gives the individual a high that's when it's smoked for recreational uses and for medical uses all the same. With that being said, when it was smoked in 3000 BC, it was used by China for medical reasons to cure aches and pains or to help them go through pains. But in 1937, it became such a big use by minorities and possibly teenagers at the age of life. The government decided to put a probation on it because of the fear of what they didn't know about the drug, which leads to my next question. It's an acronym, NORMAL, and we're gonna try to figure out what that stands for. NORMAL stands for A, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. B, the Nation of Reformed Marijuana Laws. C, New Order or Reformed Marijuana Laws. D, Never Order Retro Marijuana Laws. Or E, New Over Retro Marijuana Laws.
C.
I think myself, but maybe B.
What was A again?
A was the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws.
Go with A.
And that is correct. The correct answer for NORMAL, the acronym NORML, stands for the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws.
Okay.
This reform was founded in 1970 by a group of lawyers, basically for the reasons that the government was afraid of the drug because they thought that it would be cause of dependency, cause of people going crazy. Everybody's heard of the reefer madness era, but these group of lawyers set out to declare that marijuana wasn't so bad, and therefore made the push to fully legalize marijuana. But they also had one problem, which was our President Nixon at that time, who declared war on the drug and got a treaty, or I'm sorry, had a treaty signed called the Single Convention Treaty Schedule, which placed the drugs in categories from 1 to 4. 1 being the most potent, meaning that the drug is abused and not used for medical use, and 4 being meaning that the drug can be used for medical use and not be abused. Which goes to my next question. Marijuana, a true or false? Marijuana is a Schedule 3 drug.
True.
The answer is false. Marijuana is actually a Schedule 1 drug along with LSD and methamphetamine, making it more likely to abuse and less likely for medical use. And that was the reason that Normal came out, because they figured that that wasn't right, because it shouldn't be in the same category as those drugs, because it's not as potent as those drugs. Which leads me to my next question. In what year was the DEA formed? A, 1970, B, 1980, C, 1975, D, 1990, or E, 1985?
C.
B. When was President?
He was president in 1970.
1970.
And the correct answer is 1970.
What letter was that?
That was letter A. 1970 was the year that DEA, or the Drug Enforcement Agency, was formed by President Nixon. For their primary objective was for marijuana use, because it was so popular and because it was so famous that President Nixon wanted to put a stop to it. And therefore, that's when he created the DEA. Now we're going to go into, I'm sorry, your question.
I don't really ask this question, but what does the schedule, when you're talking about the different levels, level 1, 2, 3, what does that mean?
The schedules are actually put in, the schedules were actually put in order in reference to categorize for, it was supposed to be categorized for doctor use. But since President Nixon signed that treaty, it was now used for the enforcement of law enforcement. It was now used to enforce arrest for drug abuse to law enforcement, making the schedules, like say for instance, Schedule 1 through Schedule 4 are all illegal narcotics.
So 1 being the most simplest,
One-
and 4 being the worst one?
1 being the worst.
Oh, okay.
And one, it goes like this. It goes, 1 is the most abused, or the most likely to be abused,
Okay.
and not supposed to be used for medical use. And then 4 is being the less likely to be abused, but still can be abused, but it's also used for medical use.
Example of that would be what?
It would be Xanax.
Okay.
Xanax is a Schedule, Xanax is a Schedule 3 drug. But if you have a prescription, or if you don't have a prescription for Xanax, but you have them in your possession, then it's almost like you having an illegal drug in your possession.